In the last 2.5 months, I've been traveling around a lot, talking at different conferences. So I was speaking at ETH Denver, I was in Thailand for a bit, speaking at Consensus, speaking at New York, and then Avalanche Summit. And one of the main topics that keeps coming up in all of these chats, all these conversations I've had, is that the notion of economics have shifted quite a bit. Economics is not just about building a system, designing a model, your pie chart, token distribution, and get someone to design just simple utility, and your project can go to market. The conversation now is moving on towards creating a sustainable economy. What does it mean when your economy is sustainable? What does it mean when you're using your economy, your token utility, your different kind of economic policies to look more at user retention? And since the cost of user acquisition has gone up so much because the capital is getting more and more expensive, inflation rate has increased, interest rates are increasing, there's more competitors out there, it drives a brand new challenge when we're talking about economy. So one topic that came up that I want to discuss a little bit more today here is a conversation that I had with Carlos, a partner at Bigcraft VC. So they're a VC that invests in games. And we had a very interesting conversation of what it means to build good governance, good economy, to sustain gameplay and game economy. And one thing he talked a lot about, which I want to share today, is the idea of friction in an economy. From an investor's and VC's perspective, to him it is friction. Friction in an economy to allow the economy to be sustainable, to keep developing, and to keep the kind of balance, the economic cycle and balance in the economy. From an economics perspective or economist perspective, that to us is the invisible hand, which is what Adam Smith talks a lot about. It's what you learn in chapter 1 in your economics textbook if you study economics in college. And what does that mean? It means that when the market is out of sync, when the market requires some form of balance, when the market is unbalanced, it's unequal, you always have the invisible hand, which is the market self-correcting itself. So the market comes in, the government doesn't need to intervene too much, the government just allows things to do what it does, and then the market will recorrect itself. And this is a notion that has been around for a very long time. Adam Smith lived in hundreds of years ago. So it's a notion that the invisible hand will solve everything. But the truth is that, as we've seen in economies, we've seen in big economies, we've seen in EVE Online, for example, the free market, the free hand just doesn't appear because it appears like that. There are incentives driving the free hand. When we talk about innovation, when we talk about growth, the free hand is really driven by the various kind of incentives in the economy. And if we have this in the big economy, in terms of grants, in terms of subsidies, in terms of whatever the government is doing, we also should have these kind of systems in our game economy, in our virtual economy, in our infrastructure economy, in our Web3 digital economy. And what does that mean? It means that when you are an economist planning and building this entire ecosystem, it's not just about creating this perfect equilibrium society. It's all about optimization and use multi-color simulation, use agent-based modeling, use all the CAD and financial engineering to create the perfect system. The truth is that the perfect system doesn't exist. Long-term equilibrium only exists in the long run where we're all dead. So it's good to have that perspective to understand what an economy can look like from an optimization perspective. At the same time, it's important to keep managing and maintaining the economy moving forward. And when we talk about managing, is that the free hand, the invisible hand, where it creates friction and it solves problems, doesn't exist because it exists for no reason. The incentives behind that, and who is driving the incentives, who is planting the little seed to get the invisible hand to be moving, it's actually a lot from the perspective of governance or protocol operators, protocol developers, protocol founders, the DAOs. And so this is what economics is evolving into, which is fantastic because it's growing, it's getting more complicated. It is reflective of what the real world is. It's not just about, let's create tokens and it's going to be another form of hard currency or soft currency, or will just be utility tokens for governance voting. It's no longer just that. It's really, we're now evolving the conversation to building a sustainable economy. It's not just about the tokens, it's not just about the assets, but a sustainable, viable economy to allow all of these systems to work, to interact with each other, to create the kind of economic cycles, to have busts and booms. And this is really important in developing this digital Web3 world that we're talking about. Hopefully that makes sense, and I'll share more as time goes by. See you in the next video. Bye!